Right. It's recording. Shit. Yeah, so we put up on our Instagram last week, we're going to do a Q&A video. We've got loads of interesting questions. Just wanted to quickly touch on a new camera I bought last week. It's a Canon EOS 300 in a lovely kind of champagne silver finish. So I'm excited to get back out shooting some film. So after we film this, we're going to go out and shoot some tungsten balance film. I'm going to use some Cinestill 800T, and Shane...
I'm going to shoot on this. I'm going to try and fit this into my M2. This is Kodak Vision 3 500T, which is also tungsten balanced film. It's essentially the same film, so we're gonna shoot that and see what it looks like. We're maybe gonna go in the underground for a little bit and go from there.
So first one, tips for getting comfortable taking pictures with strangers. I'm not sure if it's something you ever get like completely comfortable with. We've obviously had quite a lot of practice walking around London taking pictures. I never really try and hide that I'm taking a picture. Like I always kind of look through the viewfinder. Recently I've been trying to take a kind of one or two portraits every time I go out, just to kind of mix it up a bit, actually kind of approach people and be like, you look really interesting, can I please take your picture? None of them have been very good, but it's just kind of practice for just...
They've been good, I've seen some good ones. So when you ask people like that, do you get rejected a lot, or...?
I tried it a couple of years ago and I did get rejected, but since I've tried again, I haven't been. I don't know if it's a kind of confidence thing or...
I think it's the camera. I think when people see the kind of camera you're using, like a Leica, they assume...
I think maybe people think like a Leica's a film camera and it's maybe a bit more kind of, you know... I don't know. Yeah.
It's your attitude as well, I think.
But I think just be polite, be respectful.
Another thing I'd say is just keep doing it over and over, because I definitely wasn't comfortable doing it when I first started, but the more I did it, the more comfortable I got, the less confrontations I got as well, the more I did it.
Yeah, definitely.
So talk about lenses. What are the pros and cons of each of them? I started off using, I guess, a 50mm lens, and then I got a Fuji X-T2, and that's when I kind of really got into street photography and I was kind of doing it every day. And I used mostly an 85mm lens for like a year and a half almost. Really kind of loved that focal length. I loved how it separated. Like if you shot it very shallow, there's a lot of separation. So if you're shooting in London and there's so much kind of busy stuff in the background, it's very easy to kind of separate your subject from the background using a tele lens like an 85. But gradually I moved towards 50 again, and I think that's my favorite length. I think all my favorite photos are on 50.
Color is a huge part of your work, but would you work in black and white? So I studied photography. I did an A-level in photography at college, so about 15, 16 years ago. We had to shoot, I think it was either 3 or 5 rolls of HP5, so black and white film, every week. Which was fun, and we processed it and made darkroom prints, but it kind of became a bit of a chore, really. I just didn't really enjoy black and white, and then after doing that for so long, I just really didn't want to do it again, really. It almost kind of... I actually didn't do much photography for a couple of years after that. It just became a bit... I don't know. I learned a lot, but at the same time, it stopped being fun, so then I just kind of took a bit of a break and then really just got back into colour, and I just love all kind of bright colours. I love looking at black and white pictures, obviously, but I find it hard to compose in black and white. I don't necessarily see things in black and white. So had a bit of a weird bumpy start in black and white film, black and white photography, but not saying I won't ever do it again, but I'm really just much prefer shooting in colour. So
where to buy film and develop film in London? I develop film at home. I develop black and white and Kodak Vision 3. I developed black and white because it's so easy. I developed Kodak Vision 3 because nobody else does it, really. It's just too complicated, so I developed that at home. Color C41 film, I'll just drop into Snappy Snaps or Boots because it's hard for them to kind of mess up the development of it. Where they usually mess it up is in scanning. So I just scan it myself, let them develop. Where do I buy film? Normally just online. I look for the cheapest prices because film is so expensive, you have to look for bargains.
This is an interesting one. Did you ever own a piece of photo equipment that really disappointed you or annoyed you? So about 4 or 5 years ago, I used to be quite into collecting like film cameras. I had like a Contax G2. I also used to buy like all the kind of trendy point and shoot cameras. So I had an Olympus Mu, a Contax T2, a Yashica T5, and I mean they're fine, but they're just overpriced, you know. I mean, some of them are like £400-500, and just a lot of money for a point and shoot film camera. I mean, I know the point is you can't change any settings. It is just point and shoot, but I mean, like I was saying earlier, this thing cost me £75 and it fits in my coat pocket, and I don't know.
That's almost like the Contax G2.
Yeah.
Camera. And it's £75, and it focuses so much better, and it's got a real big viewfinder.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Busting all those myths about camera prices, eh?
Yeah, I was kind of the same. I got an Olympus XA to start.
Oh yeah.
When I kind of got into point and shoots to see what they were like, and tried a G2, tried a bunch of them like the Yashicas, and I found like my big thing was the viewfinder. I think most of my enjoyment in street photography comes from looking through the viewfinder and kind of seeing it for yourself before you even take the photo. So it's just completely destroyed if you've got a tiny Olympus XA, for example, which has such a small viewfinder.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting any real enjoyment, or at least I'm not. So I'd say that's my kind of biggest disappointment.
I think another aspect of that is every time I've ever bought a piece of equipment thinking it'll make my pictures better.
Yeah.
Like before, I mean, about 3 or 4 years ago, I was just shooting on a Sony A7 Mark I and only using adapted vintage lenses that cost me like £30. So the whole setup was super cheap. I look back now and I've got some pictures I'm probably the most happy with. Best focal length for street photography. I don't think there's a best one. I like 28mm or 35mm. Whatever you prefer using. Like Shane was saying, he likes 50. I also have tried using a zoom lens in the past, which has been quite fun. So I mean, whatever works best for you. I know that's a bit of a cop-out of an answer, but I think it makes most sense, you know. Maybe start off with a longer lens and you can go wider, or I don't really use long lenses because they make me feel motion sick when walking down the street. That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
Weird. Who knows? But yeah, 24mm is my 28mm is my favourite. Just because I quite like this, because it's got that extra width. You kind of increase the chance of something random just walking into the frame. So that's why I like it.
Must be more kind of interesting to fill a frame. That's why it is.
It's a bit of a challenge in some ways, but it's great on the tube as well because you can kind of get the whole kind of like environment in. It works the kind of, if you're standing in the middle of the tube, it's almost like perfectly framed for like the way the carriage kind of curves round. So yeah. And
one thing I do like about it is that you can usually frame entire people. Like it's very easy to just get an entire person in the frame.
Yeah.
Like from head to feet.
I don't like to cut people's feet off. I don't know why. It really kind of stresses me out. Or like the top, if they haven't got the top of a building or something, I like to kind of try and make a whole scene. And 28mm is pretty good for that.
Yeah, like Gary Winogrand used 28mm, and in lots of his photos, you know, you've got feet and legs and all the interesting parts of people.
Mm-hmm.
But he's framing. I think it's kind of interesting with 28 that you can do that. That you kind of frame more neatly when it's that wide. But with 50, you're always kind of making a compromise. It's always like, do I get head and shoulders, or so.
Gotta get those shoulders in.
Yeah, you have to get those expressive shoulders in.
And work those shoulders. Cue the trendy music. Let's cut that one out. What are your photography goals for this year? Just continue trying to take as many pictures as possible, really. I only really get like 2 or 3 pictures a year I'm super happy with. So just about kind of getting out there. Feet on the street. That a saying? Don't know. Just going for a walk, any spare moment. Going to try and get to more events over the summer. So I'm going to Crufts in a couple of weeks, which will be fun. Big dog show. I'd like to see more of the UK, maybe some more seaside towns, just events. I find like kind of any kind of gathering where people are just having a nice time, the kind of positive energy just like rubs off on me, to be honest with you, and then I'm kind of like in a good mood for a few days afterwards. It's just, that's the places I kind of enjoy to take pictures at the most.
What got me into photography and how long have I been doing it for? I got into it at first I studied visual communications in college. I got really into their photo library collection, looking at books by Robert Frank and Gary Winogrand, and I attempted to do street photography as a way of like dealing with social anxiety I was going through at the time. I've been doing it for like 4 years, I guess, solidly. Before that, it was kind of on and off back in Ireland.
How do you decide whether a picture you took is good? Do you ask other people, or is it just by instinct? It's a good question, I think. I don't really... I mean, for me, a lot of the time, sometimes I'll be happy with a picture just if it was a nightmare to get. Like if I've been trying to take a picture in the same spot for a few weeks and I finally get something. But a lot of it is more just... I find a lot of the time the pictures I'm most happy with don't do very well on Instagram. So, I don't know, really.
I think that's an issue with the format because you shoot a lot of landscape.
Yeah.
And there's lots of detail in the frame. And then when you upload that to Instagram, it's like a tiny little thumbnail and you can't really fully appreciate it.
I mean, it's not a complaint. I mean, sometimes they might just be bad and I think they're good because I've spent a lot of time trying to get it, and I don't know, really. Do you guys do meetup/photo walks? Nothing planned, but I think we'd like to do some kind of meetup or something down the line, but yeah, stay tuned for that. Framelines Photo Meet 2026.
Yeah, stay tuned.
So I got quite a lot of questions about editing pictures. A couple of weeks ago I tried to film an editing tutorial and it just really didn't make much sense, so we had to scrap it. It is definitely something I'm going to do down the line. I'm just kind of working out the kind of technicalities of all the different aspects of what we need to kind of put together, so how to deal with white balance in different situations, raw files from different cameras. Yeah, there's a lot more to think about than I just kind of initially kind of put together a kind of screen record thing of me editing a picture, but I don't think it was very helpful and I wasn't happy putting it out. So I almost want to do a whole kind of process from going out with my camera to take pictures, selecting some when I get home, dropping them into Lightroom, processing, and then the kind of end point. But yeah, it needs a bit more work, but yeah, stay tuned for that.
How many shots does it take you to get one that you like?
6.
6.
Are most of your pictures on your Leica Q? Probably, or my M10. I do love my Leica Q, I'm gonna be honest. It's so small, the image quality is crazy. 28mm lens, I've talked about quite a bit already. Yeah.
Famous person you'd like to photograph? For me, I'd like to photograph more actors. I'd like to photograph, there's a guy called Tom Burke that's in a film called The Souvenir. Have you seen that? Do you know Tom Burke? Yeah, he's got kind of an interesting face.
Elle Fanning.
I photographed Elle Fanning quite recently, and that was an enjoyable experience for everyone involved.
What is the most dope-looking station in London Tube? Baker Street's pretty good. Some of the district line has some great ones. I
like the ones on the Piccadilly line where
oh yeah,
they've got some really cool typography and tiling, and they've got kind of older style lighting as well, which is
Southgate. Oh, Google Southgate Station. Got these 1920s lights.
What are some tips to edit film-like photos if you're shooting digital? I would say protect your highlights because film doesn't really blow out highlight detail. Digital does easily. So that's the biggest kind of tell that you're shooting with a digital camera. So if you're shooting digital, just protect your highlights and add some film grain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all of them. Thanks for sticking it out if you've made it this far. Should we do it again?
Yeah, should we do it again? If you have any questions that you feel you want to hear us talk a little bit more about, just leave a comment in the video. We'll respond to them, and we'll probably do it again. I think it wasn't too painful.
But now we're going to go out and take some pictures. So yeah, try and make another video. See how it goes.
Yeah. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thanks. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks.